Okay, now at this point on this van build, we have all of these doors and stuff. I've given them a coat of paint. I'm going to sand them down in a little while, but we've got them all for them. What else we've got? We've got a load more of them here and a load more of them here. Now I'm going to sand these down. I've given them a second filling as well, because inevitably little holes, splits in the knots and stuff like that do appear. So they've been given their second filling. What I'm going to do now is, I'm going to sand them down, and then we're going to start fitting the hinges and fitting these to the cabinets. So a good sanding first. And to soften them up, give them a key ready for the top coat. And it really is the corners of these things that accumulate the discs and any drips and stuff like that. So we're going to pay particular attention to those. If we get any stubborn parts, we've got a nice sharp scraper to sort of get them out so they're nice and clean. Okay, and with all of these sanded and ready to go, next thing we're going to do is stick the hinges on them. So these ones here are for the top cupboard sliding door side, and what we want is a couple of hinges on the top of here. And what we have to do this is a bunch of hinges. We've got the drill. I'm going to put them on with these small 13 number 3 screws, and I'm going to measure equidistant from each side and stick one on. So we've got a pencil. Let's see where we want these to go. 10, I think. If we just do 10 in from this side and set that on the 50 mark, take it down to 40. So we've got 10 in on that side. Now we've got a bag of hinges. I'll show you these hinges. These are just very simple butt hinges like this, and the idea is that's going to sit on there like that. Put the screws in. This will sit along the line of the top rail of the cabinet, and that should all be just fine. Now the best bet to do with these is to get a screw, a brad hole pretty much in the center of there. We'll get one of these small screws and whack that in. Right, one down, whole load more to go. I'm just going to get all of these on, and then we'll look at getting some of them fixed to the cabinets. Okay, having hinged everything, next thing I want to do is fit them to the cabinets. Now, this is the top of the cabinet. I'm just going to extend these lines down so that I know where the side of each door is going to rest. And the idea here is to take the first one of these and have a look at this round. Sorry, that is going to sit like that. Line it up with that line, put the hinges flush with the bottom of the thing, a couple of brad holes, screw them in. There we go. You hang the doors when the cabinet's in the van. This is going to be very simple. There we go. Right, I'll do the others on this cabinet, and then I'll do the others on the other cabinets. Same procedure. Done. And if we look along the bottom there, we've got a nice line right the way down here. Very pleased with that. What I'm going to do is make handles for them like this. I've made this from a piece of the old off-cut worktop that I had. It's beechwood, and these are going to sit on here like that. May make them a little shorter, I'm not sure, but that looks okay to me actually. I think when this is painted the colour which I have in mind, that'll go very nicely there, and we'll get them all the way along. So I need to make a bunch of these, but also this presents another situation insofar as the catches for these will be different to the ones I've done in the past. Normally I would put those little round ones on that you push and click and pull open and all that sort of stuff, but you can do that with this obviously. So what I have is some of these. Now these are, this piece goes on the inside of the cupboard, this piece goes on the door, and they will not open as they are, like that, but if you push them in just very slightly, they will then open. And I think this is going to be a better bet for this type of door. But what I'm going to do is try one. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to try one of these. If they work, I'll order the rest of them. If not, I'll think of something else. Okay, second thoughts. This isn't going to work. There's too big of a gap here. To get that to open, it's got to push in that amount. Like so. Like that. And then to get it to close, it's got to push in that amount. And that means that the door is open. There's a gap here. If you put that right the way up like that, then you can't push it to open it, and the minimum you can get away with, you see, even there, it's not enough to open it. So for my purposes, these are rubbish. They might be good for something else, but I'm going to reconsider that and think of a different type of locking mechanism for these doors. But not to worry, I'll consider that this evening. And in the meantime, I'm going to take all the doors back off, and we're going to start giving all of the cabinets their top coat of paint. Okay, so we got all of the cabinets have been painted, and that's the top coat, so they're ready to go, just about. I've painted all of these infills with the top coat. This cabinet's also painted on the front. Got a little bit of painting left to do insofar as we've got these door panels to do, which we're going to do slightly different colour. And we've got all the doors and things like that to paint as well, which again is a slightly different colour. But there's not much more I can get on with here right now, because everything is wet and I don't want to kick up any sawdust over it and stuff like that. So we'll let all of this dry and then we'll see what comes next. Now let's get back in the van, because there's something in here that I want to do at this point. And here we go. You see these things here? These are all little holes where people have screwed on various panels over the life of the van. And they're a little bit up and it's a hole. So what I'm going to do is try to knock them in a bit and put some filler in them, because I'm indeed going to paint all of this same colour as the walls. And we're going to paint all of this and anything which is exposed. Obviously the infills which I made earlier are going to cover a lot of this stuff, but there will still be little pieces of this which are visible, and I'd rather them be the same colour as the rest of the van, other than this bright yellow. I do like the yellow, but I just think it's a bit inappropriate if there's just little pieces of it showing. So you see, for instance, where infill is going to come down to this line here, so I'll paint just this edge and round here, and I'll get all of that to the same colour as the walls. But the first thing we'll have to do is put a flat coat on. So a couple of things to do then in that case. We've got the holes to do first, any little repair work like that, so that the paint looks nice and smooth when it's on. I do believe we've also got some of them on this side door, which we do, and obviously we've got our panels which will cover these bits. So it looks like the job is clean this up first, knock all these holes in and fill them up. Yes, I do indeed have some of this body filler, and that's just something falling over there, and some of the hardener, which still seems to be soft and ready to go. So first thing to do is to knock them holes in. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. A couple of things I'll try. I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, and having got them knocked down, I've now got a bit of filler here, and my idea is simply to do that. I'll leave that a little bit proud, we'll sand it down, and that should do the job. I think that should look nice and smooth when we get the paint on there. As I say, I just thought if I put these just straight into the holes, it would just keep falling through, and it would be a bit of a nightmare. So the punch has done the job. Alrighty, I have decided to do these as well. I've had a look and it doesn't look like they're doing anything really. They're just for a bit of trim or something like that. So what I've done with these ones is I've put a little tape behind the hole itself, and I'm just going to fill that over and then pull it down like that. and there's a couple of them about the place, so I shall get on with them. Okay, now I've sanded them down, all good. Next thing to do is just give this a good dust down, then I'm going to clean the whole door and then we'll get on to painting it. Okay, and with all of this filled and sanded and everything else, the next thing to do is give this a coat of paint. I've cleaned it all, it's ready to go. So I'm going to start with an undercoat. I'm just going to put a white undercoat on here, and I'm going to try to spot any places where bare metal will be visible once we've finished putting all of the panels and infills and things like that on. And I will give that a coat of paint. So I've got a roller and I've got some paint. And what I'm going to do is just give this a good coat. As I say, I'm just going to take it up to that edge there, and the edge of the van itself should sort that out. There you go. And I'm going to take it in here. And all of those little holes, much better. There may still be a little discrepancy on some of them, but we'll get that with the second fill when we've done all of this. But first things first, we just want to get a good coat of this undercoat all the way around here. Okay, so continuing with this, what we've got is the top coat is on here. Sorry, the undercoat is on. And what I've got now is some of this top coat, which I'm going to do all of the doors with, and as I say, any of the exposed metal in the van, so that when we come to put the infills on, which we'll do later, this should all marry up. That's the general idea. Okay, now I've got the doors painted and all of the other bits and pieces around the van. The next thing I want to do is get these infills in, and the way I'm going to do that is I have to do them a bit at a time because I think they're going to need clamping. I'm just going to try putting them on with this CT1. If it needs something else, then we shall give it something else, but I think this is going to be alright. Okay, second thoughts on this. It isn't actually going to clamp very well through these holes, so what I'm going to do is just put a couple of self-tappers through there, and what we'll have to do is just fill them over later. It's a lot better. Just a couple of self-tappers in there. As I say, the heads of those will cover over, and we can sort them out later. So that one's good. I'm going to continue around the van and put all of these various fills in. I'll show you something else I've done as well. I've finished off these windows, which I think are pretty good. We've got the shelf in there, that's all good. These I'm not sure, I may paint them same as that. I may leave them as they are and just give them a coat of oil. I'll think about that one. But they are in. Next thing to do is we've got a panel to run up here, and we've got another panel to go on there, and the one at the back. So I'm going to do them, and then I think that will allow us to start getting the cabinets in. Okay, we're getting on with this. Got this back door section done. Very happy with that. It's looking good, looking nice and sharp. Got the windows done. I've got this little panel in down here where the consumer unit is going to go, and I've got this one in up the wall here and this one here. Now they are going to have to dry, so I can't get the rest of them in right now because we'll need the props and stuff like that to hold them. So I thought a very audacious move here. What we might do in the meantime is see if we can get this tall cupboard in, and this will give us some idea of positioning for the bed and things like that. So that's what I'm going to try to do. It's an awkward cupboard to get in, but we'll do our best. Voila. Now I'll just get the wires out from inside there and we'll see if we can get this positioned properly. Okay, a little bit of a struggle with that, but it is the height of the van, so it is going to be difficult to get in, but I've got it in and that's all looking very good to me. I've put the set square on the front, or the square on the front, nice and square, well, nice and square this way, so everything looks good there. Now I'm going to tie it into the van at this point, simply because I am going to be using the van, it is going to be moving, and I don't want to take this back out and do it all again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some screws through these back battens here into these battens. We can get another one in here, we can get another one down there, and we can do the same with this fridge compartment. So that's what we're going to do, just to secure it in place. Okay, I've got this cupboard in and it is solidly fixed. Very good. Next thing to do is get this tall cupboard, sorry, this long cupboard in up the top here, and I'm going to try that now. Just get these wires out of the way. Now the idea is I'm going to offer this up, I'm going to try to prop it up with this, and then we'll get some screws in it. Hopefully it'll be as simple as that. Let's have a shot. That's actually not so bad. It will go back like that and just square up on the front of that panel. I want this to be very square with the front of the panel, and that's looking good. Just a couple of things to do. I need to get the wires through, which I'll attempt now, and then we'll get a couple of holding screws in it and see if we can square the whole thing up. Okay, now I know that the front of this cupboard is square with the floor, so if we take the measurement from the top there, we've got 18.3. I would take the measurement from the bottom, we'll push that in, it's about 0.5. So we'll get that top one a little bit further in, and I think the first thing to do here, sorry, I'll get out of the way. First thing to do here is we've got a strong batten here, so I'm going to get a screw through the bottom rail of the cabinet into that batten, and I'll do that a couple of ways along, and then we'll square it up this way. Okay, now unfortunately I can't get the camera up high enough to actually show you what I'm doing here, but essentially I'm putting a screw through this bottom batten into the upright batten, which is coming up here, and that will get a good tight hold of that whilst we're monkey about with it. There you go. Right, so now I can take a measurement here again. You can see that? Right, now I can take a measurement here again, and if that needs to alter a touch, I can do that, and then I'll put some 70mm screws straight up here through into the top. And I'm sure it'll be good. Alright, so I've got a few screws in all of them, and that all seems to be holding up well. So next thing we want to do is just check my measurement here again. And what we have there is 18.5, and that is also 18.5, so I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do is just put a hole right the way through here. Now I'm going to countersink that and stick a 70mm screw through it. Okay, cabinets seem to be going in fairly smoothly, so I'm going to attempt this one. I'm going to put the top cabinet up first. That's just going to be easier than having this bottom cabinet in my way. So let's see if I can get this one up. Again, first thing we really want to get these wires through. Right, that's both of them through. Now, just want to get this into position roughly. Again, square it up underneath, or support it from underneath. There we go. Now what we need to do with this one is just make sure that we're square on the ceiling batten, because I know the ceiling battens are square, and we want to make sure that it's hanging this way properly. which is more difficult because we don't really have a reference point for it. I put this pole back in and I put the square on the floor to make sure that it is square sort of this way in the van, and then we can just eyeball this to make sure that that is as square as we can get it at this point, which it is. So I'm going to put a couple of screws in here through into the ceiling, and again I'll just measure this strip here, the ceiling slat, to make sure we're equidistant on either side of it. And then the same deal as the other one, with those through into the ceiling, all looking good. I'm now going to whack some of the 40mm screws just through the bottom battens into the upright battens that I put on originally. So here we go. I can get one there. There's a potential squeak there, so I can get one up into the ceiling just on this corner. That's better. Good, happy with that. Right, now moving right along with the cabinets, it's time to try to get this bottom one in. And that is indeed the last cabinet to put in. So once we're done that, we're on to something entirely different. Alright, so we're going to tackle this bottom cabinet, but there's a few things we need to do before we actually get the cabinet fitted. I'd like to get the ducting from the diesel heater more or less to where that's going to come out, and I would like to get the diesel feed to where it's going to come out, and any of the wiring or anything like that which is going to be you know, associated with this cabinet, I'd like to get all that sorted out first. So I think I'll start with the ducting for the heater. I've got a 2 meter length of that, so I'm going to grab that, a couple of Jubilee clips, and see if we can get that in place before we start putting the cabinet on top. Okay, so I've got the ducting in here. This is actually the one that came with it, and there's enough of it, so I'll use that because it has a different sort of connection which fits onto the heater itself, and another connection similar for the vent. But that's all good. That's going to come out there. It's about the middle of the van, pointing at the seats. I think that's a good positioning for it. So next thing I want to do is just make sure that we can get this diesel pipe up to the front cabinet where the tank will be. Okay, what we've got this panel on, that's all good. Got the conduit for the diesel heater, got the wire here for the water pump, and we've got the cable, sorry, the pipe for the fuel tank for the diesel. Now the next thing we're going to do is try to get this cabinet in here. Again, it's quite a sizable cabinet, maybe a struggle, and there is an anomaly that we have to deal with. The positioning of the diesel heater is going to be right on the batten that we put on the bottom of this cabinet, if you can see that. The positioning of the diesel heater had to go there for the pipes and everything underneath, the exhaust and whatnot, but that means that this is going to hit the cross member here, so we're going to have to cut that, and then I'm going to have to build a little box around that, which is okay, not a great problem, but it does mean that the cabinet won't fit immediately. So what I'm going to do is bring it in, get it on top of here, see if I can measure it up, get the pieces cut off, and then jiggle it into position. Right, so I got that in without too much trouble really, but as I say, this is the anomaly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this framework here, and I'll cut it about here, and when we get that sitting properly, there's a panel to go on here which I'll cut out for the heater, and then we'll make a box around the heater so that it doesn't get stuff dumped on it and stuff like that. But that's the plan. It would have been much easier, I know, if the heater had been square on or a bit more over that way, but it's a matter of the chassis members under the van just weren't really allowing for that to happen. So we've got what we've got, and we've got to sort it out. So I don't fancy mucking about with this and trying to get it back out of the van, so what I'll do, I'll just give plenty of space here, because as I say, we'll make a reinforcement box around this which will steady the frame back up and protect the diesel heater. So what I'm going to do is just take this member off here, like that, and I'll also take it off here. cabinet should fit against the wall there now, and we'll just have to sort this stuff out when we get round to it. I mean, the bed is going up to here as well, so this is all going to secure itself back up. But my main objective today is to simply get this cabinet in. Just make some countersinks on the sides of these, because I'm going to skew them through into this back batten. And then we've got a little bit of monkeying around here to do, just to get this end of the cabinet squared up and secured. And once we've got that done, we're pretty much there with the cabinets. Now, just on this end one here, it looks a bit misshapen, which it is right now. So what I'm going to do is just make sure we're square. That wants to come way over there, so we're going to get that squared up there. A screw to put right the way through it. Just get that down in there first. There we go. Now, just check we're square again at the bottom. That wants to come into about there, and then we shall whack that through. All good. Now we're just going to need a batten on the inside here as well, which I'll cut and put on now, and then we can look at getting this screwed through into the floor. I've done the back first, and then I'm going to square it up at the front and screw it through into those feet that we made for it earlier. Okay, so I've secured all of that to the back. Next thing to do is to just see that we're nice and square on the floor, pull it into position. If not, that's it, about there. And I'm going to screw through these into the feet below, and obviously I'll be careful not to get it through the conduit of the diesel heater. So get one about there. And this is the same deal. I'm just going to go along the floor, make sure everything's square with the floor, and then screw it through into the feet below. Okay, quite a bit of progress here, I think. Cabinets are in, top cabinets are in, bottom cabinets are in. This is all looking good. As I say, we just have this little anomaly to sort out here around the diesel heater. I'll get onto that soon. And the next major thing to do here is to sort of measure up for and make the bed. So I think that will be the next video. I'll take some measurements for it, and I'll just consider how I'm going to do that this evening, and then next time we'll come back, we'll get straight on with that. There's a few other things to do on the cabinets, so I may split the job there. I may paint the cabinet doors, and whilst they're drying, then we'll get on with the bed. We'll see how it goes, but for now, that is the end of this video. I think the van has changed quite considerably this time, and I think it's starting to look pretty sharp. So I thank you very much for watching. If you would like to see the rest of the series, just see how this van turns out, do consider subscribing to the channel, and if you enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much.